Hi, I'm Sandi Genovese, and welcome to this episode of the Ellison Education video series. You know, in science, work is defined as a force acting on an object to move it across a distance. Pushing, pulling, and lifting, they're common forms of work. A machine is described as a tool that's used to make work easier. And we're going to talk today about some simple machines. Now, if you look at the table in front of me, you can see some examples. Using the dies that I've cut out to illustrate them, the first one that I want to show is the inclined plane, and I've marked with a marker so you can see that some dimensionality has shown on the die as well. This is shown as the mass that you're moving. You could relate this to a mover moving boxes and how hard it would be to have to lift the box as opposed to putting it on an inclined plane and using it to slide and move the box along. Another example here is an example of the wedge, and once again showing the dimensionality. And then up here, an example of the screw. This is on one die. On a second die are the remainder that show the rest of the 6 simple machines. So here is the lever, and the triangle is used as a way to show the fulcrum. And then if you come over here, there's a weight and a hook that are used to help you describe how the wheel is being used as it turns along with this T for support to lift, like a pulley would lift. And then 2 wheels cut together with just a pencil threaded in between helps to see how you can create the wheels and the axle help movement. And almost any of the kids that you have are likely to be familiar with a bicycle or a wagon, and the wheel and the axle would be very familiar to them, even to explain that the pulley that happens with the wheel, the function is similar to the chain on the bicycle, will help them to see the real life examples. So even if you have a real screw that you bring in and let them see the threads on the screw, the paper version is just a facsimile that helps you put it into a chart sort of format. Or if you have a light bulb which has a very similar, the threads on the light bulb are another real life example of how the screw action will work. What we're going to do is we're going to look how to take all of the shapes in this die, which is on the Simple Machines die that has those particular things. I'm going to be cutting them to create a 3-dimensional model of like a pulley that will really work and will really pull something. So I'm going to take, because this is an all-star die and I'm going to be cutting it in the Big Shot Pro, what I need to do is place the adapter which comes with the machine. And pictorially, the adapter tells me that I'm going to need a crease pad if I'm cutting with an all-star die. So I'll then put the die, and I've got 5 sheets of construction paper that I'm going to place right over the top. I have the die sitting with the rubber side up, and then I have the cutting pad over everything. I'm going to just roll it through. And the reason I'm cutting 5, I might be cutting 6, 5 or 6, is if you have lots of kids and you want each of them to be able to create something like this, it would be something that you could do quickly. Let me see if I can bring this over here without all the parts and pieces falling everywhere. But you can see how it cuts the lever and the weight and the T that supports it. It cut the wheels. All of those are something that you can cut just with that one simple die. To look at what I'm going to create with it, if you look, I'll bring this up and show you. This wheel has been trimmed out so that when it's combined with the T that's also from the same die, I can actually take with just string, and I've tied a knot around the hook, and you can create a 3-dimensional model. You can see how it's moving the hook right along, and it might be good to use something fatter than the string that won't fall off the top, but you can actually create the model that will work and move like a real pulley. Here is one of the wheels, and I've just used an X-Acto knife to cut around everything except the outside section of that spoke. I've done the same thing on this one. If I put a little bit of adhesive on the yellow or the red and overlap the 2 like so, you can see how you're going to begin to create that. If you do the same thing on all 4 of the spokes, you're going to begin to get this action that you can put thread or yarn or string and it will move. To support the middle, I simply used a little piece of straw that was the same dimension as that spoke, and then through the hole I used an oversized brad that I just poked through. And to go back then and show you this one, you'll see if you look closely, that's all that is. There's the side version where you can see how I've cut the spokes to create that. Here's the oversized brad, It's being used to support the T, and then anything that you place in this groove is going to be something that this action is going to let you lift or lower in a way to help explain how that particular machine action works. Now, another fun thing to do with the dies is to take the inclined plane, and because two inclined planes together will make a wedge, you can take, and by cutting out two of them, I've done two different colors and shown how by folding on the perforation, you can see how you create what would be a wedge to explain that action. If you cut with scissors along the perforation so that you lose the dimensionality part of this, it helps to show that an inclined plane, when it's wrapped around a pole, becomes a screw. So if I take just a marker and I mark the longest edge of the inclined plane, and then you need something round, in this case I'm using a pen, and I'm going to just use this as a support so that I can start wrapping. And as I wrap this, you can see that marked, that colored edge will start to show how the threads of a screw really, if you could open it up, it would be an inclined plane. Very cool. Whether you're pushing, you're pulling, or lifting, you're going to find that these models, they're simple, but they're fun.